Good evening. I'm Norman Robinson, and welcome to Affordable Housing Matters. On tonight's program, we will discuss what new trends are occurring in affordable housing with a representative from the Louisiana Affordable Housing Management Association. Also, the Greater New Orleans Fair Housing Action Center will educate us on how to combat housing discrimination in our area. And later in the program, the NOLA Lending Group, powered by Fidelity Bank, will tell us what they're doing to lend a hand in providing and promoting affordable housing. We have a great show planned tonight. You're watching Affordable Housing Matters right here on WLAE.
Open up your books to page 360.
Did you just look at your phone while you was in class? You played yourself.
Talking about inspirational quotes.
You gotta believe in yourself. Don't ever play yourself. The key is to make it, so make it.
Louise, can you give me an example of an inspirational quote?
Don't play yourself. The key is to make it.
And who said that?
I did. Now that's a major key alert.
Learn the real major keys to getting to college at getschool.com.
The Louisiana Affordable Housing Management Association is the leading voice for affordable housing, advocating on behalf of multifamily property managers and owners whose mission is to provide quality affordable housing in Louisiana. Here to tell us more about their mission and also the current housing trends in New Orleans is Ms. Ann Roeling. Welcome, Ms. Roeling.
Thank you so much. Good to be here.
It's nice to have you again. So what is LAMA?
LAMA is a statewide organization of owners and managers that provides training and housing for the improvement of good affordable housing within the state. It stretches all the way Shreveport, all the way down to south of New Orleans even.
Wow. So you have a vast area of responsibility.
Right. We have a large group. We have a large group that takes into account all the interests throughout the state, particularly New Orleans, really.
What are your challenges?
Our challenges in general are trying to bridge these partnerships between federal, state, and local entities that are interested in trying to have good quality, sustainable affordable housing within the state. And New Orleans is a unique market in that regard.
What makes New Orleans so unique?
Well, Katrina changed the world, right, for all of us. And in affordable housing, it took away so many, replaced it with these wonderful mixed income properties and communities that are very vibrant. But a portion of that affordable housing that was there has been reduced. And so that other production has to come in other areas. And in the city, land costs are high, developer costs are high. So it's difficult to find that affordable market.
So how are you reconciling these kinds of challenges?
We are working very closely with the Louisiana Housing Corporation in Baton Rouge. We work very closely with HUD. We are a lobbying entity for owners, developers, and managers to try to find those interests and fit those pieces of a difficult puzzle together.
Now, there was some talk about eliminating tax credits for developers who agree to mixed income.
Yeah, the city has
properties.
been working, The city has been working really hard to try to give those incentives. The state gives some of those incentives. And the city even has a proposal forward that they would require that of any developer, that a portion of that would be affordable. LAMA works to say that's a good thing, but we need dedicated money. Of course, the state is strapped.
Yeah.
The federal government still supports those tax credits. But how they are distributed within the state is decided at the LHC and is based upon a lot of statistics that come out. New Orleans happens to be one of those cities that those statistics are tough on, low income and working families. They spend way too much of their wages, over 60%, in rental rates to housing. Okay, that's very tough in the long run to sustain that and to have a viable, vibrant city where people can live and work. So the state and we as LAMA work to try to help the city support those incentives, those initiatives. Tax credits are a very good vehicle, but they're costly. So where they used to be very, very prolific, we now see that narrowing. And that's where you see the city coming in with some of their own incentives to kind of make that up.
So you're going to have to be more creative in coming up with
right.
ways to fund it. So is that what you're working on now?
That's what we're working on. That's what you see coming out of the city. Because if the state narrows it and HUD narrows it, somebody's got to pick it up, right? And the city's working real hard to try to find those incentives that can keep developers in this city particularly, as opposed to somewhere else in the state or somewhere else in the Gulf Coast. We want to be able to work with them to say, hey, this is going to draw a developer here. And they've been very receptive to that.
Now, recently there was a development approved on the riverfront. Sean Cummings' construction property, where the council approved its okay, or gave its okay, without any mixed income units. So,
right. There's going to be some of those, and that is not going to necessarily have those mixed income properties. And that's the difficulty. See, that gentrifies that whole area, right?
That's right.
So we're trying, that's what you see the city saying, hey, should we have this requirement? And, really from affordable housing point of view, we say, let's promote that. Let's see how we can make that happen more regularly. But even in that type of mixed income, those are small, if you have a 500 unit property, you're probably getting less than 100 units of affordable in that. And this city needs 30,000 in 10 years. We're not anywhere.
Where are you going to find 30,000 in 10 years?
Projected. We're not anywhere near that projection. So we're looking at, can we get 3,000 in 3 years? Can we put out, can we help between the federal, the state, and the local entities? Can we put 1,000 affordable housing units a year new on the market? Can we retain up to that amount? Can we not let some of that go away? And I think you're seeing the retaining getting better. That's what the statistics show. Difficult to develop it because of land costs, developer costs. That development is big, high-cost land. That's tough for him to get an affordable margin in there, because our margins are not what a market rate margins are. Ours are less.
And so you're still concerned about the rising costs of supplies, because, the president just complicated that by
he did.
By approving a tariff on steel
and aluminum.
Yeah.
And steel makes our big towers, right?
Yeah. And therein lies another challenge.
Right. There's the federal government almost fighting itself, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, but we, as local and state, we do have opportunities. And at LAMA, we're trying to work to promote those opportunities and make sure that we're well informed so we know what choices we're making. When the city council says, no, we're not going to require that large developer, you are putting maybe 50 families out, right? So you need to, if we promote this and we talk more about it, then we're more aware and more informed about what those decisions are and how they affect our city.
All right. And LAMA, and Roeling with LAMA. No shortage of work for you, right?
Right. And for all of us.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
You're welcome. When we return, the Greater New Orleans Fair Housing Action Center will join us and educate us on how to combat and recognize housing discrimination. Don't go far.
What's with him?
He's happy. Your family's finally eating vegetables, thanks to our Bird's Eye Voila skillet meals.
And they only take 15 minutes to make.
Ow!
Oh, oh my.
Bird's Eye Voila. So veggie good.
The Greater New Orleans Fair Housing Action Center is a nonprofit civil rights organization established in 1995 to eradicate housing discrimination. Joining me now to tell us how they're continuing that mission is Ms. Renee Corrigan, Education and Outreach Director of the GNO Fair Housing Action Center. Good evening, Ms. Corrigan.
Good evening. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here. For such a tough job, you don't have any stress marks on your face.
I do what I can.
You do what you can, and we're all grateful for it.
Thank you.
So, What is the Fair Housing Action Center?
So we're a private nonprofit organization that's dedicated to ending all forms of housing discrimination. We were originally founded in New Orleans, but we've since expanded and we work all across the state of Louisiana. We fight to eradicate housing discrimination in 4 different ways. So the first is with our enforcement department. That's our team of attorneys and investigators. We investigate complaints of housing discrimination, and then we assist clients to take appropriate action depending on what makes the most sense in their case. And we also investigate how often housing discrimination is happening throughout the market. You know, housing discrimination can be very subtle and hard to detect, so having objective investigations that reveal how often it's happening is really important.
Why is April a significant month for you?
So April 11th, 2018 is going to be the 50th anniversary of the passage of the Fair Housing Act. That was signed on April 11th, 1968, soon after the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King. And it was a landmark civil rights bill that protects everyone in the country from discrimination in housing. We're going to have a whole lot of events in order to mark that occasion. We're going to have trainings all throughout the month of April, community events. We're going to be sharing a lot of information. So definitely check out our website at www.gnofairhousing.org, or also our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You know, you can find that information in a lot of places to see a listing of all our events and activities, because it's going to be a lot of fun. It's a really important anniversary to mark, and we definitely want the community to get involved.
Okay, you say the Fair Housing Action Center was founded in New Orleans. Why is New Orleans ground zero for the Fair Housing Action Center?
Well, it's where we were founded, where we do a lot of our work, although, you know, when we do fair housing investigations all throughout Louisiana, we encounter housing discrimination. When our partners in states all across the country do those investigations, they find it as well. So housing discrimination, unfortunately, is very pervasive pretty much in every community.
So how is a housing discrimination investigation initiated?
So it depends on whether we're doing it because we've heard about a particular housing provider who may be breaking the law, or if we're just looking to investigate how often discrimination is happening in the market. So there could be different reasons why we're going out. But a lot of our work is done using mystery shoppers. And so when we send out mystery shoppers, we pair them based on every single characteristic except for that one that we think the discrimination is based on. So if we think, for example, that a realtor isn't showing homes fairly to black applicants the same way they're showing them to white applicants, we would send in a black tester and a white tester who had the same income, credit score, those sorts of things. And so then if we recognize that there's differential treatment, we can know that it was because of that basis, that it was based on race or something else about them.
So how does one recognize the warning signs of housing discrimination?
So the Fair Housing Act, first I'll just say it protects you against discrimination based on 7 categories. So that's race, color, religion, national origin, sex, disability, and family status. And family status is if you have children, how many children you have, or also if you're pregnant. And those are anywhere you go in the United States. And then cities and states can layer on extra protections if they'd like to. And so Orleans Parish has also added protections against discrimination based on sexual orientation, gender identity, marital status, age, and creed. So I just want to let folks know how broad the law is, you know, how many different protections there are in place. And then that the Fair Housing Act applies to any housing transaction. So it could be renting an apartment, buying a home, getting a mortgage loan, getting a homeowner's insurance policy, advertising housing, being harassed at home by a housing provider. Unfortunately, that's pretty common, but that's also covered by the Fair Housing Act. And then zoning, so when a government passes a law about housing, that can also violate the Fair Housing Act if it discriminates or has a discriminatory impact against a certain group of people.
So if I'm in the market for like renting a home,
right,
what specifically should I be looking for?
So we've seen that discrimination can happen at all different points in the transaction. So often when we do our investigations using mystery shoppers, we find that there are some housing providers out there who linguistically profile, meaning that both our white tester and our black tester, or maybe a Latino tester, depending on what we're testing, will leave a voice message on the voicemail for the landlord, and then the landlord is more likely to call back our white testers. So often that's, an assumption is being made based on the sound of the voice or the name of the applicant about their race or national origin. So that's one thing you want to look out for. If you leave a lot of messages and you're never getting calls back, that might just kind of be a warning sign to you. We also find that sometimes, our black testers may arrive first to look at the apartment, and the landlord may be very friendly and respectful and say, I'm so sorry, but it's just been rented.
Yeah.
But then later in the day, if our other if our other mystery shopper goes in, who's our white mystery shopper, equally qualified for the apartment and they're shown it, then it really shows that that landlord had misrepresented whether it was available or not, and that's also illegal housing discrimination.
So what do I do if I figure that I have a good case to document that I've been discriminated against?
So we recommend that you call our office as soon as possible at 504-596-2100. 504-596-2100. Folks can also visit our website and let us know about a complaint online there at www.gnofairhousing.org. And you have what's called a statute of limitations, 1 year to file a complaint with HUD if you'd like to do that, and 2 years to file a lawsuit in state or federal court. And it seems like a long time, but it's really not. So the sooner you can call us so that we can start looking into what happened, the better.
Now, are there some areas of the city that are more prone to housing discrimination than others that you found in your investigatory work?
So we do investigations all throughout the city, and we really find housing discrimination pretty much anywhere we look for it.
Really?
But we have recently done some investigations looking in majority white neighborhoods and looking at how often folks who are trying to buy homes are steered in or out of those neighborhoods depending on their race. And so steering is something also that you want to keep an eye out for, whether you're looking to rent an apartment or buy a home. And steering is when your realtor, the landlord, the agent, whoever it is, makes assumptions based on who you are about what neighborhood is appropriate for you, what home is appropriate for you, even which units in the building. So maybe if you have children, they might steer you away from a second floor unit in an apartment building, or if you have a disability, steering you to a different unit. There was an investigation done by the National Fair Housing Alliance. They looked at 12 different cities across the country, and they sent out equally qualified potential home buyers, and they found an 87% rate of steering based on race, national origin, family status, or religion.
87%?
It's really an astonishing statistic. So we know that steering is happening very often in the housing market. And so for people, again, who are trying to buy homes or rent apartments, number one, we recommend that you keep your own mind open and look at all the different neighborhoods that would make sense for you. And then number two, you want to make sure that you communicate those preferences to your agent. And if they seem not to be respecting your preferences, not showing you homes in the areas that you've chosen, pressuring you to look in other areas, only showing you homes in one small area instead of homes throughout the market, then those are, again, some warning signs that you might want to give us a call. Or if you feel, sometimes it's really obvious that you're steered to an area where everyone is kind of like you. Right?
There was a case where people were kind of evicted from American Can. Did that have anything to do with discrimination based on race or ethnicity or age?
So there are certainly maybe some fair housing implications there when there's a large eviction. In the case of the American Can apartments, a majority of the tenants who are being evicted were people of color and also people with disabilities, and those are protected categories under the Fair Housing Act. So housing providers do have to be cautious when they take actions that the policies that they have, that the actions that they're taking don't have an unfair impact on one of those groups that's protected by the Fair Housing Act.
So we need to keep your number close by.
Definitely.
Especially if we're in the process of looking for places to buy or rent.
That's right. And some other patterns that we've seen in the sales area are a lack of customer service or different amounts of customer service given to different applicants. I know anyone who's bought a home before knows how complex those transactions can be. You've got to talk to the inspector, you've got to find a mortgage, you've got to find an insurance policy, all those things. And so realtors should really be helpful and give you all those referrals and coach you through the process. But what our investigations have uncovered is that often white applicants get a lot more coaching and more referrals, whereas the black applicants may just not get that amount of support to make the sale. And again, that's housing discrimination. For one person to be treated better, given better opportunities, given better options because of who they are.
Well, thank you very much. You've been very informative.
Thank you.
Renee Corrigan, Education and Outreach Director of the Greater New Orleans Fair Housing Action Center. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Right after this break, the Senior Vice President and Chief Compliance Officer of Fidelity Bank will discuss what the NOLA Lending Group is doing to help New Orleanians during this affordable housing crisis.
WRBH 88.3 FM provides blind and print handicapped listeners with programs that inform and entertain. To learn more, contact 504-899-1144 or WRBH.org.
As you know, New Orleans is in an affordable housing crisis, and the NOLA lending group powered by Fidelity Bank is here to lend a helping hand. With me to discuss how his bank is participating and promoting affordable housing efforts is Mr. Charles Lefebvre, Senior Vice President and Chief Compliance Officer of Fidelity Bank. Welcome, Mr. Lefebvre.
Thank you.
Nice to have you here. With this affordable housing crisis, how does a bank like Fidelity participate and promote affordable housing?
So we do a lot of tremendous efforts as it relates to partnering with local nonprofits to ensure that we're performing community outreach events, to try to make sure that we are providing our services to the majority of everyone that's within our community that has needs, especially as it relates to affordable housing. Through those partnerships, we also have created specific programs, lending programs, to allow for low and moderate income individuals or those living in low and moderate income areas to obtain financing on different terms than we would a conventional loan purpose. Additionally, we do a lot of work with economic development and making sure that our small business needs are fulfilled through the financing of affordable housing developments, as well as the small rental facilities that are provided through the mom and pop entrepreneurs.
You talked about small rental housing. So how does that play a part in affordable housing efforts?
So I think when a lot of people think about affordable housing, they think about government assistance, or they think about public housing. But the reality is, in the United States, the vast majority, over 75% of affordable housing, is through small rental units. The vast majority of those, I think it's a little bit over 50%, are provided by actual mom and pop entrepreneurs. They are financing, maintaining, and creating actual affordable housing developments that's 50 units or less, way more than big corporations or through other funding.
So are those people then challenged to hang on to their properties because it's becoming more attractive for them to do things like Airbnb?
So short-term rental obviously has an effect, and we've seen that in our community. We see that news stories every day about folks being thrown out of their homes through the short-term rental process. We obviously, as a bank, try to make sure that both sides are able to obtain financing, but we also try to stress through policymakers that we have to make sure that housing is available equitably for all members of our community.
Yeah, and because you have employees too that you have to.
Correct.
You have to be concerned about their housing needs.
Right.
As well, right?
As the bank prosper, our communities prosper. So that includes all of us, including our employees.
Well, recent studies, as you know, have suggested that in Southeast Louisiana, it's more affordable to buy a house than it is to rent. So what are some of the considerations buyers and renters need to consider when they're evaluating the issue of affordability?
So as with anyone, first, when you go to get any type of pre-approval from a lender, you're going to be qualified for the most of what you can spend. The first thing that any applicant needs to do is consider what can they actually afford. While they may be approved for the most, what fits their actual budget. Second thing that most borrowers need to consider is whether or not, what are the other expenses or additional expenses that are related to the home that they're buying, whether it's ongoing maintenance, taxes, insurance, or any other type of improvements that they plan on doing.
So if I'm employed as a dishwasher at a local restaurant, and I come in, and I've been employed, say, 2-3 years at that restaurant, and am I a candidate for a loan, given that my position is just a dishwasher?
No, but absolutely. If you have an income that's a guaranteed income, we definitely consider all applicants, regardless of their actual profession.
And earlier you talked about your position as the Chief Compliance Officer. So you're concerned about making sure that Fidelity follows the rules and avoids the pitfalls that other banks have made and fallen into. And so what do those efforts look like?
So Fidelity, we're celebrating our 110th year of being in the New Orleans area. We're a mutual financial institution, so that means that our clients actually own our bank. They're our shareholders. Okay. They're who we answer to. So making sure that we follow the rules is of the utmost importance to ensure the longevity of our institution, as well as our community mission of being here for good. So we monitor everything that's going on with other big banks, see where they fall into certain traps, and evaluate whether or not Fidelity has any of those same characteristics, and either make changes or try to avoid them in the future if we don't have any of those characteristics. Making sure that we're serving our community is probably of the utmost importance to all of our management team and every employee at the bank, whether it's swinging a hammer or providing actual no-cost servicing to local nonprofits for the mortgages that they hold. We're committed to making sure that we avoid any pitfalls that other big banks have fallen into.
And you've talked about the partnerships that Fidelity has formed. So how can individuals become more informed about these partnerships and these programs to benefit the cause of affordable housing?
So one of our many partnerships is with the United Way of Southeast Louisiana. They have an IDA, or Individual Development Account program, that allows for low and moderate income individuals to save for specific goals related to either purchasing a home, purchasing a vehicle, or attending secondary education. They match those funds that those individuals and participants are able to save for 4 to 1. 85% of those accounts are held at Fidelity, and probably the most exciting thing that we see when hearing stories from the United Way is that it goes full circle, that the participants save with us and then they eventually get a loan with NOLA Lending Group or Mortgage Division to purchase that home.
So when you think affordable housing, think also of Fidelity Bank.
Absolutely.
Mr. Charles Lefebvre, Chief Compliance Officer of Fidelity, thank you for being on Affordable Housing Matters.
My pleasure.
You're welcome. We would also like to thank Ms. Ann Roeling of LAMA and Ms. Renee Corrigan of the GNO Fair Housing Action Center for joining us on Affordable Housing Matters. And remember, if you would like to rewatch this and other episodes of Affordable Housing Matters, go to WLAE.com and click on the programming link. There you can rewatch this episode and all past episodes of Affordable Housing Matters. Thank you for joining us. I'm Norman Robinson. Have a good night.